Hello and welcome to BusyBee Extras. My name's Weakley. Today we have a very special episode. I have on the phone right now the inventor of the KF airfoil. I'm sure you've heard of him. His name is Kline, and I'm just going to interview him for a little while. We're going to hear about the history of the KF airfoil and some of the more recent things that have happened with it. So, how are you doing, Dick?
I'm doing fine.
So, do you want to kind of start off and tell us the very beginnings of the KF airfoil?
Sure. Well, I was working as an art director in Midtown Manhattan on 42nd Street, and my office was on the 24th floor looking south toward the Empire State Building, and down below, across the street, was the New York Public Library and Bryant Park. And working with the copywriter, once in a while we'd make paper airplanes and throw them out the window and watch them sail around Manhattan. And that's how I started on this thing. And then on the weekends I would take my son out to the park, and we'd fly paper airplanes. But I ran into a problem, and it was a big problem. Paper airplanes are kind of flimsy, and you have to sort of toss them gently, and they also can be affected by humidity and so forth. So they become rather unpredictable in terms of how they fly. And I was looking for something better than that. In fact, one of the things I learned and we all have imaginations, every single one of us, and the thing is to employ that imagination as much as you can, because it's very rewarding. What happened for me was, flying out in the park with my son, I started thinking about, gosh, I would love to make a paper airplane that I could throw like an overhand fastball. I used to be a pitcher, and have it just climb up as high as it could and then level off and go into a nice long glide. What I didn't realize was that really isn't possible. Nothing is going to self-stabilize without some means of control. But since I was totally ignorant of aerodynamics, and I had such a strong visual impression in my mind, I was determined to make this happen. And I tried this, and I tried that, and I don't know how many paper airplanes I tried, and nothing quite worked until the beginnings of making a double fold where I could tape the wings to the body of the plane, sort of creating a fuselage, if you will. Mm-hmm. And that made it very rigid. I was also using, as an art director, I worked with a paper called Ledger Bond, so it was a nice firm paper, and I could make nice crisp folds. So I made this plane, and gee, it worked pretty well. I could throw it pretty hard and all, but it still wasn't performing the way I wanted it to do and the way I saw it in my mind. And so one day, just intuitively, I grabbed hold of the rudder, the bottom piece of the airfish. It really isn't the rudder, but the piece that hangs down underneath the plane, and I pulled it open, sort of creating pockets in the wings, and in effect accentuating the step. And then I threw it and watched it climb up as high as a telephone pole, level off, and go into a beautiful long glide. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm looking for.
Wow.
So I spent the next possibly 4 years trying to interest toy companies and getting nowhere. Then in 1964, a retoucher, fellow who was doing work for me, he retouched color photographs, named Floyd Fogelman, came into my office to pick up some work from me, and I said, "Hey, Floyd, watch this." And I launched the plane, and it goes sailing down the hall, and he goes running after it, and he comes back, and he says, "You know, I think you have a whole new concept in aerodynamics here." I said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He says, "Well, I've never seen a plane resist stalling the way this does. It sort of just porpoises forward instead of dropping like a brick, you know." And he said, let me take one of these home and translate it to ball fluid and see if it still flies the same way." And I said, "Okay, go ahead." So a few days later, he comes back, and he's got a big grin on his face, and that indicated to me right away that, yeah, it works. So we ended up seeking out a patent lawyer, and we also, he told us that we needed an aerodynamicist who would give us the mathematical formula so that we could file for a patent. And Floyd, he had a friend who knew of an aerodynamicist who taught at the LaGuardia School of Aerodynamics out on Long Island. So we went out to pay him a visit, and he got intrigued. And Floyd had made a chord section of the stepped airfoil that I had created, and we put it in a wind tunnel that had an old Franklin engine, and it was sputtering and puttering around. But we managed to test it up to 24 degrees angle of attack, right side up as well as upside down, and it would not stall.
Wow.
Oh, pardon?
Wow.
Yeah. So, at any rate, we did file for a patent, and it was a struggle back and forth with the patent office, and as a matter of fact, the guy at the patent office kind of messed up somehow, and our time limit had expired, and we got, what's going on here, you know? So we had to petition again to reopen the case, and which they did. And ultimately, in 1973, I believe it was, we got our first patent on the airfoil. In the meanwhile, I was talking to an account person at the agency I was working at, and he had a sister who worked at Time magazine, and he thought that she would be interested in the article, doing an article on it. I left out one piece that happened prior to that, and that was with the agency I worked at was doing work with Dr. John Nicolaides, the first head of NASA out at Notre Dame, and this account executive said he'd be willing to take one of the paper airplanes out and show it to him and get his reaction on it. And we said, go ahead. So we were invited out by John Nicolaides, and Floyd and I flew out to Notre Dame and went to the Athletic and Convocation Center, where I launched my airplanes, and Nicolaides made the comment, "That damn thing would fly if it was made out of lead," which I got a big kick out of. And at any rate, he did some testing on it, and now going back to the Time magazine story, when it was written up in Time magazine and included Nicolaides' comments on it and so forth, it was then picked up by CBS 60 Minutes, and then we were invited to appear on CBS 60 Minutes, and Morley Safer did the segment, and it was a fun and interesting time to put a time frame on it. This was happening about the time Nixon's presidency was collapsing, and actually, I think it had already collapsed. And so CBS 60 Minutes did a 45-minute interview with John Ehrlichman, one of the people very heavily involved in Watergate. And then our 15 minutes came on at the end of that 45-minute segment. So that just puts it historically in the place it all occurred, the time frame.
Mm-hmm.
At any rate, all the experts rejected it, and what they did literally was to follow the patent drawing out the window. The patent drawing showed a flat upper surface and a sharp leading edge and a discontinuity 50% of the way back, and not a very deep discontinuity or step. But that's what we were patenting, not an entire chord section, because we knew that the airfoil, the stepped airfoil, worked with the step on the top, with a step on the bottom in various locations, because I had flown some terrific aircraft, paper airplanes, with the step on top, and wow, I mean, they really soared. I started initially with the step on the bottom, but then I moved to the top. At any rate, at some point along the way, I decided, gee, I'd like to write a book about this, because it's kind of interesting, all the twists and turns, and nothing was happening with NASA or anybody else. They were just totally dismissing it. They did some testing on it with the sharp leading edge and the flat upper surface, which isn't really an airfoil, and also the sharp leading edge was very bad as far as lift over drag ratios. So even MIT did the same thing, just flat upper surface, sharp leading edge, and so forth. At any rate, so I decided, gee, I'd like to have somebody write a book about this. So I spoke to a friend of mine who put me in touch with an agent, a book agent, and she took it to Simon and Schuster, and the editor there said, yes, I'm very interested, bring him in. So Floyd and I went in to see this editor at Simon and Schuster, and he heard the story from me, basically, of what was happening, and he said, well, why don't you write the book? Wow, I didn't expect that one, because I've never written a book, but okay, if that's what you want, I'll write it. So I did write the book, and got tremendous help from my wife, who's an editor, because I maintain everybody's got to be saved from themselves. Nobody is so all-wise, all-knowing that they can do it all by themselves, and writing a book is a process. Writing anything is a process, because you just don't write it one time and say, here it is, and it's flawless and brilliant. It's only the first step. So what happened was the publisher, when he approved finally the version that I had submitted to him, he then turned it over to his editors, and again, another round of correcting this, dropping that, and so forth. So finally the book is all ready to be printed and so forth, or it ends up getting printed, and then the publisher says to me, gee, Dick, we really need a big idea to kick off this book. What can you come up with? I thought to myself, oh my God, big ideas. They don't come along every day. But, okay, I'll think about it. And I thought to myself,